un po' di bene e ognuno si considerasse suo fratello, ci sarebbe meno pensieri e meno pene.
Noi condividiamo.
E il mondo ne sarebbe assai più bello.
Ma ora siamo davanti alla Corte d'Assise e lei è imputato di 16 omicidi. Allora vorrei ricordarle che lei di questo si deve occupare.
Florence, Italy. A city known for its art, its beauty, its light. But beneath the glitter of this city lies a very different story. Not one that carries the scent of marble, wine, and art, but one that carries the scent of fear, blood, and mystery. Between 1968 and 1985, the hills surrounding Florence became the stage for one of the darkest and most mysterious serial murder cases in European history. The press called him Il Mostro di Firenze, the Monster of Florence. This monster killed 16 people. His victims were couples who had parked their cars in isolated areas to share intimate moments. The murders were always committed with the same cold-blooded precision, using the same weapon, .22 caliber Beretta pistol. And after each killing, a horrifying ritual followed the brutal mutilation of the female victims' bodies. This case went down in history as not only Italy's, but the world's most complex serial murder investigation filled with false arrests, media frenzy, conspiracy theories, and political intrigue. This is not a story about art. This is a story written with obsession, blood, and fear. And even as the years pass, it still isn't over. This is not just a story of serial murders. It is a portrait of a society's psychology of police helplessness, media madness, and the way superstition can still take root in the modern age. And now, Netflix brings this dark legacy back into the light with its series, Monster of Florence. Today, we invite you on a journey through the labyrinth of this terror, a journey where truth, rumor, and fiction intertwine. The City of Lovers and Fear. Everything began on the night of the 21st of August, 1968. In the quiet summer night of Signa, a small town near Florence, a 29-year-old construction worker, Antonio Lo Bianco, and his 32-year-old lover, housewife Barbara Lotti, had parked their car on a secluded road, one of those places where the city's secrets hide in the dark. But that night, something else was hidden in the shadows. A silhouette approached. 7 gunshots shattered the stillness of the night. Both lovers died instantly. In the back seat of the car, Barbara's 6-year-old son, Natalino, had been sleeping. He woke to the sound of gunfire, fled in terror, and made his way to a nearby house. When police arrived, everything was a mystery. At first, suspicion fell upon Barbara's husband, Stefano Mele. They believed he had killed them out of jealousy. Stefano Mele was soon arrested. He confessed to the murder, claiming jealousy as the motive, but later withdrew his confession. And then he said, "I wasn't alone that night." He spoke of mysterious men, friends of Barbara's from Sardinia, and named Lotti's former lover, Francesco Vinci, as an accomplice. Vinci and several of Mele's relatives were arrested. But this was only the beginning. The court found Mele guilty. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, and the case was closed. At least, that's what everyone thought. The crime was initially recorded as a domestic or jealousy killing. No one imagined that it was the first link in a chain of murders that would last 17 years. Monster comes back. Borgo San Lorenzo, the 15th of September, 1974. 6 years had passed. On the 15th of September, 1974, a young couple, 19-year-old bartender Pasquale Gentilcore and 18-year-old accountant Stefania Pettini, were attacked while spending time together in Gentilcore's Fiat 127, parked along a rural road near Borgo San Lorenzo. They weren't far from a popular disco called Teen Club, where they were supposed to spend the evening with friends. The next morning, their car was found at the edge of a field. Both had been shot with a .22 caliber pistol. But this time, the scene was far more brutal. Stefania's body was covered in knife wounds. Her corpse had been violated with a vine branch and bore 97 stab wounds. The killer had mutilated her even after death. This showed that the murderer wasn't content with simply killing. He wanted control over the body. The people of Florence began to believe that a monster was roaming among them. Scandicci, the 6th of June, 1981. 7 years later, the monster returned. On a warm summer night near Scandicci, a couple parked their car in an olive grove. Their names were Giovanni Foggi and Carmela Denuccio. The next morning, their bodies were discovered in their small Fiat Panda. Both were shot with a .22 caliber Beretta, the same weapon used before. And once again, the woman's body had been mutilated. Denuccio's body had been dragged out of the car, and investigators discovered that the killer had cut into her pubic area with a notched knife. Carmela's body was dissected almost surgically. Police began to suspect that the killer might be a doctor or someone with anatomical knowledge. This was the moment investigators realized they were facing a serial killer. The next morning, a 30-year-old medical worker and known voyeur, Enzo Spalletti, was arrested after allegedly talking about the murders before the bodies had even been discovered. He spent 3 months in prison, but while he was behind bars, another couple was killed. That proved the real killer was still out there. Calanzano, October 1981. A young, engaged couple. On the 23rd of October 1981, 26-year-old laborer Stefano Baldi and 24-year-old telephone operator Susanna Cambi were found shot to death in their car the same way, with the same weapon. Cambi's body had been mutilated like Denuccio's. Then, Susanna's mother received an anonymous phone call. The voice said chillingly, "That girl won't be crying anymore." Police recognized the same signature. A .22 caliber Beretta Winchester H head-stamped bullets. But again, no killer. Only a shadow. Bacciano. On the 19th of June, 1982, 22-year-old mechanic Paolo Mainardi and 20-year-old seamstress Antonella Migliorini were shot inside their car on a rural road near Montespertoli right after being intimate. This time, because the road was more frequently used, the killer had no time to mutilate the female victim. Several drivers reported seeing the car parked by the roadside, its interior light on. Paolo was still alive, barely. When police arrived, he was trying to speak, but he took his last breath before uttering a word. No one ever learned whether he had seen the killer. Ballistics tests followed, and it was confirmed. The same weapon used in the 1968 Signa murders had been used again. From that moment on, all the files were merged under a single name: Il Mostro di Firenze, the Monster of Florence. Giogoli, September 1983. This time, the victims were 2 young men from Germany. In September 1983, 24-year-old Wilhelm Friedrich Horst Meyer and Jens Uwe Rusch, students from Osnabrück, West Germany, were found shot to death in their Volkswagen camper van near Galuzzo. Their car was discovered on a forest road, and for the first time, the killer had also mutilated a male body. It was the first sign that the killer's depravity was evolving beyond murder itself. Rusch's long blonde hair and delicate build might have led the killer to mistake him for a woman. Investigators now began to think this wasn't just an ordinary serial killer, but a ritualistic maniac. Vicchio, July 1984. Claudio Stefanacci and Pia Rontini. In July 1984, 21-year-old law student Claudio Stefanacci and 18-year-old barmaid Pia Gilda Rontini were found shot and stabbed in Stefanacci's Fiat Panda parked in a wooded area near Vicchio. The same nightmare had returned. The cuts on Pia's body matched those of the previous victims. Footprints at the scene suggested a short man, but the trail disappeared before it led anywhere. Police interrogated dozens of suspects, But nothing pointed to that shadowy figure. Scopetti, the 8th of September, 1985. The last known couple, Jean-Michel Crevic-Villy and Nadine Mauriot, French tourists. They were found brutally murdered beside their tent. A part of Nadine's body was missing. A few days later, an anonymous letter arrived at the Florence prosecutor's office, addressed to investigator Silvia Della Monica. Inside was a piece of flesh taken from the woman's breast, sent as proof that the killer was mocking the police, challenging them to find the bodies. Now everyone knew. This was the most systematic chain of terror Florence had ever seen, and the end of that chain was never found. The investigation begins. The investigation grew rapidly. Hundreds of detectives, thousands of tips, mountains of files. The weapon was traced to Beretta 22 long rifle with Winchester H head-stamped bullets. The same ammunition used in 1968. Police reopened the old case files. Same gun, same method, same region. Were Stefano Mele's Sardinian friends still free? During the first years of the investigation, police focused again on Stefano Mele and the Sardinian immigrants connected to him, especially Francesco Vinci. This became known as the Sardinian Trail, an obsession of the Florentine police. But when the monster struck again in 1974 and in the following years, it was proven that all those men were in prison at the time of the murders. The investigation had hit a dead end. By now, every man was a suspect. Butchers, hunters, doctors, farmers. In Florence, every man was seen as a potential monster. Then, in 1984, a mistake was made. Or perhaps, for the first time, a clue appeared. The tracks led investigators to a farmer named Pietro Pacciani.
La sera del delitto degli scopeti, io passai dagli scopeti, tornando di fuori, mentre io torno, quella domenica, vedo Pacciani.
Allontanatelo all'aula, immediatamente.
Pietro, di buffone non lo voglio.
Fuori.
Pacciani was no ordinary man. Born in 1925, he was a war veteran, angry, withdrawn, and feared. He had a history of violence against women and was known in his village as the Mad Farmer. In 1991, police searched his home. They found knives, pornographic magazines, and bullets identical to those used by the monster.
Io sono vicequestore primo dirigente della Polizia di Stato, 20 anni di servizio nella Polizia, attualmente svolgo la funzione di liaison officer fra la DIA, la Direzione Investigativa Antimafia, e l'FBI, e questo è il motivo per cui vivo e lavoro a Washington.
La famiglia mi sento dire, c'è la mia moglie poverina, anche lei è rimasta semifermamente, la non sa né che la dice, né che la fa, né quando è nata, non sa nulla.
Pacciani was arrested. The press immediately found its new devil, but the evidence was weak. There was no gun, no DNA, only suspicion. In 1994, Pacciani was convicted.
Il tempo nemmeno di legarsi le scarpe, come lei, che devo fare? Io ho detto tutta la verità.
La Corte d'Assise di primo grado di Firenze, sezione prima, dichiara Pacciani Pietro colpevole dei delitti a lui ascritti, come in imputazione, ad eccezione di quelli di omicidio e di porto d'arma comune a sparo, relativi all'omicidio in danno di Lobianco Antonio e di Locci Barbara, e lo condanna alla pena dell'ergastolo con isolamento diurno per la durata di anni 3, al pagamento delle spese processuali di custodia cautelare, e liquida a ciascuno delle parti civili costituite la somma di lire 100 milioni a titolo provvisionale immediatamente esecutiva. L'udienza è tolta.
But 3 years later, he was acquitted on appeal. The court ruled the evidence insufficient. While awaiting a retrial, Pacciani was found dead in his home. Heart attack, they said. But no one really believed it. The monster was still free. This time, police turned their attention to two of Pacciani's friends. Giancarlo Lotti and Mario Vanni, two elderly, lonely, and strange men. Eventually, Lotti broke down. He confessed, claiming that he and Pacciani had committed the murders together.
Via, non me ne importa.
Bene.
Io tanto sono solo. Sono lavorato per la
He said they were working for a wealthy cult that bought female body parts. He spoke of satanic rituals and demonic ceremonies. It sounded insane, but prosecutors accepted it. Lotti and Vanni were sentenced to life in prison. Yet no physical evidence was ever found. The cult never existed. The wealthy clients were never identified. The Monster of Florence still lurked in the shadows. Dr. Francesco Narducci, a doctor found dead in Lake Trasimeno in 1985, was later linked to the case. Some claimed he was the monster's final victim. Others believed he was tied to a Masonic cult involved in the killings. But DNA tests and extensive investigations never proved any of it. The truth remains unsolved. Even though two accomplices were convicted, the Florence Monster case is still officially listed as unsolved. Media madness. By the late 1980s, the story had consumed Italy. Newspapers splashed bloody photos across their front pages. Television hosted live debates. People spoke of rituals, Satanism, and secret societies. Farmers were afraid to go to their fields. Young couples stopped going out at night. The romantic hills of Tuscany had become symbols of fear. Police kept making mistakes. Evidence disappeared. Files went missing. And as the years passed, only one question remained. What if the real monster was never caught? Who was this monster? A lone killer? A group? Or perhaps powerful figures hidden within the system itself? Ballistic experts proved that all the murders were committed with the same gun, a Beretta 22 with its serial number filed off. The weapon was never found. And so, to this day, the case remains open. The identity of the Monster of Florence is still unknown. The Netflix series. Years later, Netflix brought the story to a new generation. The Monster of Florence. The series doesn't just tell the story of the murders. It tells the story of the madness that followed them. It's not just about a killer. It's about a society, about how fear spreads, and how media can turn into a weapon. And the police become monsters, chasing their own shadows. The Netflix series captures the atmosphere, the fear, the obsession, the feeling of being watched. But it simplifies the real story. In reality, nothing is certain. Maybe the monster was one man. Maybe he was many. But one thing is certain. This story never truly ended. For 17 years, the monster terrorized the hills of Tuscany, leaving 16 victims behind. The weapon was never found, and the true killer's identity has never been officially determined. These murders left deep scars on Italy's justice system. The Monster of Florence didn't just steal lives. He stole Italy's faith in justice itself. He is not a closed case. He is a long, living nightmare. Everyone who visits Florence should know that those beautiful olive groves, those romantic hills, were once a hunting ground for a monster. And that monster may still be hiding in the Italian darkness.
Di un incubo di tanti anni fa che ti domina, ma in questo momento non ti sto mentendo e non ti mentirò neanche dopo, se e quando deciderai di liberarti di questo mostro che ti tiranneggia. Tu sai come, quando e dove trovarmi. Io aspetterò.
Who do you think the Monster of Florence really was? This was based on real.